Children, the next force is the frictional force. Frictional force acts when friction is there. What is meant by friction? Friction means the rubbing of two objects against each other. Okay? When our palms, you know that when we rub our palms against each other, one palm moves forward, another palm moves backward, which creates the friction, and thus a force is produced that is called as frictional force. Very common example I had shown you in the text, which is in the textbook also, page number 73, and in this picture also I had shown you. When you play the carom, at that time a carom piece is flicked lightly, it slides over the carom board but stops at a certain distance. Okay, so when we are applying the force by using this carom piece, at that time it is rubbed against this board. Okay, it is rubbed against this board, and when it moves certain distance when the force is applied, but after some going certain distance it stops. Okay, so that frictional force is a force which acts against the object. You can take another example, a ball rolling over a flat ground. When you are throwing the ball, it rolls towards the ground for some time. After that, it stops. Means it is moving when there is a frictional force. After that, it stops. Okay? You know that when we walk on the road, our sole of our shoes or the chappal, it is acting, means it is getting rubbed against the road. Okay? So that is called as a frictional force. Otherwise, if the frictional force is not there, no rubbing is there, what may happen? If the surface is smooth, we may have fallen down. So when two surfaces rub against each other, listen, when two surfaces rub against each other, the force of friction comes into play. Very simple example of your palm. When you are rubbing the palm against each other, we cannot take both the palms in forward direction and both the palms towards backward. One palm moves forward and another palm moves backward. That is against each other. Then what happens? Then only the force of friction comes into existence. It always acts against the direction of motion. Next example, when a brake is applied while riding a bicycle. You know that when you are moving on a bicycle and if some obstacle comes in between, you apply the brake. When you apply the brake, what happens? Our bicycle stop. It stop means what happens? The wheel of that vehicle that get rubbed against the road. Okay? How does this brake work? So, these brakes are applying the force against the road. That's why bicycle is not moving forward. I had shown you a good example or very common example you can do. When we take two smooth pieces or sandpaper and rub against each other, at that time also the frictional force is created. Smooth surfaces can be easily rubbed. See here the difference between the surfaces. Smooth surfaces get rubbed against each other easily, while the rough surface cannot be easily rubbed against each other because the force of friction between them is much greater. Where the force of friction will be more? Where the surface is rough. Keep in mind, children, the surface should be rough. If the surface is smooth, at that time frictional force will be less and there are chances that one may fall down. You know that a wooden plank laid down for pulling out a car which is stuck in a mud. Very commonly you observe that when any of the vehicle is stuck in a mud, or especially the car, at that time wooden plank is placed in an inclined manner. So what happens? Why it is? Because as the surface is rough, it can be pushed easily. If the surface is smooth, at that time the frictional force will be less, and that wooden plank is smoother one. So that's why it is easy to carry the car from that mud. Okay. The force of friction is generated between the wheel and the wooden plank laid down under a car. Hence, it is pulled out from the mud. From all these examples, we can say that the force of friction can either decrease or increase. It depends on us. It depends on us means it depends on the surface that we are using. Again I am repeating, when the surface is rough, at that time frictional force is more. When the surface is smooth, frictional force is less. Okay. Thank you, children.